Hi everyone, I'm Gianluca, Creative Director and Designer at Void Pointer. I'm here today along with Uriel, our producer and designer, Silvia, our 3D artist, and Manuel, our lead programmer. Together, we will show and comment on our game, Dino Path Trail, which is a 3D isometric single-player roguelike survival with a narrative drive and an action combat based on timing and mastery.
The game takes place in a fictional world which merges the Wild West with dinosaurs and magic. In our world, dinosaurs have never gone extinct, and humanity has learned how to live with them as if they were common animals. Our protagonist, Lucy, has her sister kidnapped, and to rescue her, she steps on the cursed grounds of the Dino Path. Here, she will discover that this place is linked to her past, and that nobody can live or die until the curse is broken. Stuck in this place, and driven by the will to save her sister and break the curse, she will travel far and wide, through canyons, mountains, and swamps, along her caravan and dinosaur.
You can think of our game as Don't Starve meets the action combat of Curse of the Dead Gods, the narrative of AIDS, and the dynamic difficulty of Risk of Rain. Together, they create an experience that has the player fighting against time, while advancing through maps, struggling to survive, exploring, crafting, and acquiring power-ups, fighting enemies and bosses, and discovering the world and the story behind it with every run he wins or loses.
What sets our game apart from those titles and other roguelikes are our exploration maps, which are where most of the gameplay takes place, and the freedom and control the player has on taking the experience. The player can approach his runs by fully focusing on the survival aspects or fully focusing on the roguelike aspects, or balancing the two. Each of these yields a different gameplay experience with different upsides and downsides.
Before diving in, we want to thank London Games Festival for selecting us, giving us the opportunity to showcase our game on their platform.
Each run starts from the hub. In this space, the player can acquire buff and change aspects of the run they are about to do. The hub starts empty, but as the player progresses in the game, it expands with each villager NPC that they rescue. These NPCs not only allow the player to change up elements of the run, but they also provide the narrative that drives the game, reacting to the player's actions and discoveries in the previous runs. Interacting with the map allows the player to start the run. This is the first of 3 valleys maps. Each valley map is made up of exploration maps, a shop map, and the boss map. Maps are connected by trails that the player has to discover to keep advancing. Exploration maps are the main maps of the game. They belong to 3 different biomes, canyon, mountain, and swamp, and have 3 properties that determine key aspects of their information. These elements allow the player to plan out their route according to their needs and goals. They give information about the special rewards of the map, hence the power-up you get when clearing the special area. The topology of the map, which changes the resources you may find, and the climate of the map, which acts as a modifier that complicates either survival, combat, or both. In each exploration map, the player manages their vitals, explores, collects resources and power-ups, crafts, and fights enemies. To proceed to the next map, they'll need to find the trail gate. The player can spend as much time as they want on any map, but as time and in-game days passes, the difficulty will increase as represented by the bounty in the corner right of the screen, and the player will suffer harder and harder incursions from their enemies. Better to keep on the move to avoid the bounty hunters reaching you. Along with increasing the difficulty, time also handles the alternation of day and night. Each phase of the day has different enemies, with night having mostly predators around. In shop maps, the player can use the currency gathered from fighting and looting enemies to buy items or use work tables. While these items can all be normally crafted by the player during the run, shops provide players that focus on roguelike aspects an alternative way of accessing them, albeit randomly, as the items and work tables available are chosen at random. and a way for players that focus on survival aspect to receive little boosts in their progression. Lastly, boss maps are where the players test their ability against the leaders of the bandits and their dinos. Beating a boss awards more powerful power-ups, along with unlocking the next valley map, or, in case of the last boss, awards the player with a successful run, which pushes the narrative ending forward.
Surviving is one of the main goals of our game. The player needs to manage health, hunger, and hydration. While health is the only one that matters as long as dying goes, keeping your hunger and hydration in check is just as important. In Dino Path Trail, the player is not passively damaged by having extremely low values of hunger or hydration, but depending on the current values, the player can receive buff or debuff that greatly improves or limits their potential. Both hydration and hunger are tied to time passing, an action that player performs, with time being the least important factor and action being the most important ones. Fighting, gathering, using tools, and crafting drain the hunger meter, while running and dodging the hydration meter. To keep this vital top, the game offers several consumables, which are items that can be carried and used on the go. Collecting and crafting stronger consumables allow the player to be in a permanent buff state. Exploration is the main activity of the game. From collecting resources to acquiring power-ups and progressing to the next map, the player is required to explore. Keeping this in mind, our exploration maps are made to foster exploration, and the player's goal in each map is to find trail gates so they can move to the next map and keep progressing in the run. Each of them is semi-procedurally generated and resemble a small open world. Depending on the biome, conformation, and special properties, they differ greatly from each other, presenting different enemy, resources, and special zones to find. Dinosaurs especially differ greatly from biome to biome, and each of them has specific loot that can be gathered upon killing them, that is used for crafting many of the items in the game, from consumables to equipment and weapon attachment. Special zones are plenty, and they reward the player with power-ups, weapon attachment, rare items, and materials. From forts to farm, to abandoned camps, to forgotten altars, dinosaurs' nest, and bandits' encampment, each exploration maps gives the player several reasons to wander and discover. But be careful, as each zone is dangerous in its own way, and you may even find traps or extremely feral dinosaurs that don't take kindly to people entering their lairs.
The combat is one of the main features of our game. It's an action combat based on timing and mastery. The player has 3 main actions, which are shooting, dodging, and reloading. Each of these has a normal variant and a perfect variant, which is activated by performing it at the right time. A perfect shot deals increased damage, a perfect dodge grants the player a buff, and a perfect reload instantly completes the reload. Enemies themselves alternate between states of vulnerability in which they can be interrupted and states of invulnerability in which they still take damage but won't be interrupted. What separates skilled players from new players is being able to exploit enemy states and perform actions at the right time for increased effectiveness. The game features only ranged weapons, which belong to different categories, each with its unique fighting style. Revolvers are all-rounder weapons with high versatility and medium range. They are quick and allow players to perform perfect shots for increased damage if the shooting button is released at the right time. When the player is holding a revolver, dodging right before getting damaged will have the player shooting back at the attacker in retaliation. Rifles are long-range weapons with slow but powerful shots. While holding a rifle, the player has increased view range, allowing him to attack enemies from farther away. When the player aims by holding the shooting button, the view range gets further increased. Releasing the shooting button at the end of the aiming process always leads to a perfect shot. When the player is holding a rifle, dodging right before getting damaged will ensure that the next shot is a perfect shot, regardless of timing. Shotguns are destructive but slow to reload close-range weapons that shoot multiple bullets in a cone. They are very quick to shoot and can fire in quick succession by holding the shooting button down. Enemies that are very close to the player and are hit by the shotgun bullets will take increased damage from them as if they were hit by a perfect shot. When the player is holding a shotgun, dodging right before getting damaged will provide a short boost to movement speed and damage. Additionally, the user can also craft throwables, which are a secondary weapon category that can be used along with the main weapon to completely obliterate any obstacle the player has in their path. Along with their base behavior and stats, weapons can be fitted with up to 3 attachments. These power-ups can increase the weapon power, be it by increasing its stats, such as damage, range, reload speed, or by giving it special properties, such as ricocheting or perforating bullets, incendiary bullets, etc. Most of these effects are applied to the player's perfect shots, so the more accurate the user is with their timings, the least chances of survival the enemies have.
Crafting is another important part of the game. By crafting, the user can increase its power and efficiency in all aspects of gameplay, from combat to survival and exploration. There are 2 main sections of crafting: portable crafting and workable crafting. Portable crafting can always be accessed by the player via its DRE interface. The portable crafting allows a small variety of items to be crafted by the user at the beginning, starting tools and a few consumables. As the user completes the run and progresses in the game, it expands, giving the player the possibility of crafting weapon attachments that they have unlocked in previous runs, becoming a powerful asset to the player and allowing them to craft their weapon attachments. The workable crafting, instead, is tied to the base camp of the player. To craft the worktables, the user needs to first craft them through the base camp expansion interface. Once crafted, the worktables will appear in the camp, and whenever the player changes them up, they will be brought along in the new one. Once a worktable is crafted, the user can interact with it to access more powerful and specialized craftings. There are 5 worktables: the campfire, which allows the player to cook foods and craft fire-based products; the alchemy table, which allows for the crafting of explosive, restorative potions and other concoctions; the weaving table, which allows for crafting of equipment and upgrades of the player textile-based tools, such as an increased bag or a bigger canteen; the forge, which allows for the crafting and upgrading of weapons and better tools; and lastly, the refiner, which allows for the transformation of basic resources in refined products and vice versa. Worktables are a catalyst for the player run progression, as they completely give control to the player on their build and power advancement. They require effort to make, and as such, time and planning of the run, which then translates into an increased difficulty due to the run time increasing. Additionally, crafted versions of items that can be found also by exploring have additional benefits. An example of this is weapon and their attachment slots. Weapon crafted always have space for 3 weapon attachments, while versions that can be found randomly may have less or no space for them. Last but not least, the player progression is what drives forward the experience and provides replayability. The player has 2 main progressions, the one within a run that they're doing, and one outside the run. The first one, during the run, centers around the player becoming more and more powerful as they advance and face bosses and enemies of increased difficulty and number. During a run, the player can mix and match equipment, weapon throwables, weapon attachments, and power-ups to become a real powerhouse. All of this can be either stats enhancer, give the player special abilities, or even change what some actions do. By exploring, crafting, and having a bit of luck, many different builds are possible. You can make your shot extra powerful, or even change completely your playstyle and how your actions work. The second one, outside the run, centers around discovering the narrative, unlocking NPCs that provide bonuses and changes to the player's starting equipment and run condition, and unlocking more advanced crafting recipes to do well in the run. These 2 progressions are linked by how well the player has performed and what has discovered during a run. Upon dying, all progress done within the run is lost, and the player has to restart from scratch each time. They will be awarded a special currency based on how well they performed in the run. This special currency is used to increase the up potential and give the player access to systems such as buyback of some of the items they had in the previous run, or even to buy different caravans with a different dinosaur connected to them. All these elements greatly improve replayability and allow players who have played multiple runs a way to try out different builds by using the crafting system and the weapon attachments or types unlock. Thank you all for your attention. We hope that Dino Path Trail will be a meaningful experience for you. The game is currently reaching its full alpha state and will be released in 2025. Meanwhile, you can wishlist on Steam and follow us on our socials, where we will keep you posted on the development and content of the game.